All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a spiritual path known as Bhajan Marg. At its heart, it's a journey of devotion, and it's built around a practice that is, well, surprisingly simple, but incredibly powerful. We're going to break down its core ideas, looking directly at the teachings to see what this path is really all about.
But let's kick things off with a question that, honestly, probably hits home for a lot of us. Have you ever had that feeling? Where on the surface, everything's fine, maybe even great, but you still feel kind of stuck or like you're searching for something more? Well, the path we're talking about today starts by looking right at that feeling.
So, to really get a handle on this, we're going to walk through 6 key concepts. We'll start with what this philosophy sees as the root problem, the illusion, and then look at the ultimate goal, the destination. After that, we'll get into the how-to, the method, the role of the guide, the daily practice, and finally, the really crucial part, the mindset.
Okay, so let's tackle that feeling of dissatisfaction we just talked about. Where does it actually come from? According to this path, the problem isn't the world itself. It's the way we're seeing it. It's about the lens we're looking through. And that brings us to this idea of an illusion. And in this philosophy, there's a name for this illusion. It's called Maya. Think of it like a cosmic veil that tricks us into believing that this physical world, all the temporary stuff, is the one and only reality. It makes us forget who we truly are on a spiritual level, which is why one teacher put it so simply: because of your Maya, we are unable to recognize you. To make this idea really stick, there's this fantastic analogy. Picture a monkey who sees some nuts inside a jar with a narrow opening. It reaches its hand in and grabs a big fistful, but now its fist is too big to pull out. The monkey is trapped. But here's the thing, it's not the jar that's trapping it. It's the monkey's own refusal to just let go of the nuts. The teaching says we are exactly like that monkey, trapped by our own attachments. Okay, so if the big problem is being trapped by this illusion, holding on to things we shouldn't, what's the solution? What's the way out? Well, that leads us right to the ultimate goal of this entire journey, the destination. And that goal has a name, Bhagwat Pratap. It literally means the attainment of the divine, or God realization, and we're not just talking about a fleeting good feeling here. This is described as a state of total liberation from that endless cycle of birth, death, and suffering, a state of complete, profound union with the very source of existence. This gets to a really mind-blowing insight. The divine isn't some faraway thing you have to search for. It's right here, right now. It's in every single particle, it's in every person you meet, and it's inside of us. The only thing standing in the way isn't some huge physical distance. It's just the constant chatter of our own minds. So, if the goal is to cut through all that mental noise, to realize what's already here, how in the world do you actually do that? Well, that's where the core practice, the actual method, comes into play. This is the main tool in the toolbox. The central practice is something called Nam Jap, and it's as simple as it sounds. It's the repetition of a divine name. It could be Radha Radha, Ram Ram, or any name that resonates. And it's seen as the most direct, the simplest, and yet the most powerful way to purify the mind and pull its focus away from the world and back toward the divine. Okay, right about now, a super common question probably pops into your head. You might be thinking, sure, I can repeat a word, but my mind is a total mess. It's thinking about emails, what's for dinner, a million other things. Does it even count if I'm not 100% focused? And the answer given is, well, it's a brilliant analogy. Think about fire. Fire is hot, it burns. It doesn't matter if you touch it carefully and intentionally, or if you just stumble and fall into it by accident. The fire's nature is to burn. In the exact same way, the divine name is said to have its own power to purify, whether your mind is perfectly still or totally distracted. Now, you might think, okay, a simple method, I can do this on my own. But, navigating this kind of inner journey can be tricky. There are pitfalls. And that's where the next piece of this framework becomes so critical, the guide, or in this tradition, the guru. So what does a guru actually do? It's not just about teaching you stuff from a book. They provide the right path,
They're a channel for divine grace, or kripa. And maybe most importantly, they help awaken the spiritual knowledge that's already inside you. And this leads to a key idea. The real path is just following their guidance. That's considered the highest form of service. And this makes a really vital point. The connection isn't about geography. It's not about being physically near the teacher. You could be on the other side of the planet, but if you're genuinely trying to live by the instructions you've been given, you are spiritually right there. True service is obedience to that wisdom. All right, so chanting, gurus, how does any of this fit into a 21st century life full of jobs, families, and bills? This isn't about escaping to a monastery. Let's look at how the day-to-day practice is meant to be woven right into the life you already have. The sources lay out this really practical 3-step game plan. First, you change your perception. You start to see the divine in everyone you serve, your family, your customers, your patients. Second, you do your job, and you do it well, but you let go of being attached to the results. You focus on the quality of your work, not the praise or the profit. And third, you mentally offer it all up. Every action, every result becomes a quiet offering to the divine. So what's the big takeaway here? It's that you don't have to blow up your life to walk this path. You don't change what you're doing, you change how you're doing it. It's all about an internal shift. The exact same life, the exact same job can become your spiritual practice just by changing your inner perspective. And that whole internal shift, it all comes down to one last huge piece of the puzzle, the mindset. This is the final move from a mindset of control to one of surrender. And this slide just lays it out so clearly, right? The difference between these two ways of thinking. The ego says, I am in charge here. I'm the one doing everything, and I need to control the outcome. It sees suffering as a personal failure. But the surrendered mindset says, I'm just an instrument. I'll do my best, and then I'll accept whatever happens as grace. It sees challenges not as punishments, but as opportunities to receive strength. So what it really boils down to is this. The teachings say that our pain doesn't come from what happens to us. It comes from our resistance to what happens. Peace isn't about finally getting everything to go our way. It's about learning to accept reality in every moment as a form of divine will. And that brings us to the final and maybe the most profound idea of all. This whole journey with the chanting, the mindset, all of it, isn't actually about transforming yourself into something new, something you aren't. No, it's a journey of remembering. It's about peeling back the layers of illusion, letting go of that ego, and finally realizing what you have always been and what you will always be, an inseparable part of the divine.